Brigadier AJIT APTE, war veteran, 1971 war, India-Pakistan. The issue at hand today is something which we have already discussed earlier, a few years back. But in brief, the context of that particular war, which is of utmost significance even today, one of those very important areas which stands unsolved, like most of the other issues after the 71 war, is the number of prisoners of war. 54 prisoners. It is an issue which is very sensitive and close to the heart of most army personnel for sure. Civilians are not. And as far as the army personnel is concerned, Brigadier Ajit Apte is no stranger to the fact that the army people, almost 54 of them who are talked about from time to time having been captured, have not been returned since, going into the captivity of the Pakistani army. Even after the agreement, Shimla agreement, Delhi agreement, Vajpayee ji went to Pakistan 1999 on the 19th of February. Modi ji followed 25th of December 2015. Various delegations have come and gone. We will discuss various aspects of the POWs issue, not the war in general, because there are many issues around the war, but what happened exactly? Why were those prisoners not brought back? 75 years, 54 years have gone. There are question marks about the numbers, question marks about the whether they are still alive or not, survival of the 54 people, etc. Sorry, sir, there was a technical problem. Can you see me now?
Yes, yes.
So the issue is not only around the war, the issue is around the POWs. The number of 54 is controversial. Even General V.K. Singh, whom I spoke to, former chief of the army staff, he would not be joining today. He was supposed to join, but he's traveling. He's coming back to Mizoram, where he's taken up the post of the governor of Mizoram. He also briefed us because he was also MOS External Affairs. It's not that the government has not worked on this particular issue. There have been many delegations which have gone and come either side, but they have not been able to resolve this issue. Let's aside even the correctness of the survivors. I can go on and on, but the idea is to listen from the person who fought the war, who is a authority on this subject of 1971. Let's aside many other army issues. He is a friend of the forum. The forum is absolutely non-partisan with respect to any political affiliation. And Brigadier Ajit Apte is one of those great army personnel, fighters, who has served the purpose of us holding the flag of raising these kind of issues for the past few years. Brigadier Ajit Apte ji, thank you for joining us, sir. 71 war veteran, somebody who knows army, who knows defense by the back of his hand. He knows what went wrong, what went right. He knows about the agreement issues. He is an avid reader. He's an avid traveler. He's been through the World War II memorials also. He knows things like no one else. I'm very happy that we could get him back again. Brigadier Ajit Apte ji, 54. Is this number controversial? Does it have any relevance today? And what are your views on this 54 years versus 54 war prisoners of the 71 war? I hand it over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure always to join you on your forums. This is a very sensitive issue, sensitive topic, and I'm well aware, having fought the 71 war myself and having met the Pakistani officers and junior commissioned officers and the other ranks in Khulna, where I was part of the surrender that took place of 107 Pakistan Infantry Brigade, while the rest of the surrender was taken at Dhaka. So I'm well aware of the anguish which is there amongst the next of kin when people don't come back. Uh, at the outset, let me just mention here that the list which was going around of the 54 for a very, very long time has got, aberrated in between. I won't say corrupted, but my own first cousin, Flight Lieutenant Pradeep Apte, got a Veer Chakra posthumous, was killed in action on the first day of the war on the Western Front when he went on the first counter airstrike by the Indian Air Force, was shot down, captured, and killed. But that is sure that he was killed in action because his remains were recovered and full military honors were given in January 1972. But his name again appeared in the list, which was circulated about 2 years ago. And I have participated in the seminar and the similar meeting that you're holding today was done by the Air Force veterans, and I'm a member of that. And there also, when this point came up, the correction was sought, and subsequently his name was taken out. On the list which you have sent, which I received a few days ago, there is a prisoner from my own regiment, 14th Field Regiment, but he was captured when my regiment was fighting on the Chum front, Chum sector in 1965. So he is not a 1971 war veteran because I was with the regiment during the 71 war, and I know that from my regiment there were only killed in action. There was no one captured. But this name which has come up is there, and I commanded the same regiment, so I'm aware. And we have been keeping in touch with the next of kin of this Jawan, whose name is there in your list as part of the 71. That is incorrect. He was missing in 1965. And even today, no one knows where he is. My regiment suffered casualties in 65 in the Chum sector. Now, coming to the actual anguish, uh, yes, it's a very painful thing because there are different versions going around that these 54 were there. Now, of course, very correctly you have said we don't know their survival status because they would have been at least 20 years old or 21 years old in 1971, and now 54 years have gone by. So they would be 75, 76, some maybe 80, we really don't know. So uh, as your first person to start the session today, I will restrict it to saying just two things. Number one, that it is a painful thing because those of us who have fought the war and we realize our own comrades don't come back, whether it's the army, navy, or the air force, it's a very painful thing. Not to realize what has exactly happened to them. If he's killed in action, then it's clear cut and people disconnect. But when that is not so, people are hopeful. The famous case of Flight Lieutenant Tambe, his wife Damayanti, keeps coming, and she's been to Pakistan also. I know the lady personally, and I know Flight Lieutenant Tambe's younger brother. He also was in the army. I meet him regularly. So it's a matter of great concern. Day before yesterday, I had gone to the military academy where I trained, the National Defense Academy. And we have a special table there for missing in action people who have never come back. And it signifies that the academy, the Indian Armed Forces, is still waiting for these people to come back. The Air Force continues to fly something as the missing pilot. They keep that vacancy when they fly the formations. So it's a very painful thing. And I'll leave it at that. Let's listen to the others.
No, no, Aptiji, there are no further participants apart from you, and the numbers are not important here. I really wanted to listen to people like you and General VK primarily, because you guys also Brigadier Jatar was supposed to join because Brigadier Jatar was also part of that war, and he also was part of the 62, 65, both the wars, and he's also based out of Pune. So forget all that. We will continue this session with you and try to understand various aspects. This number of 54, where did it originate from?
See, I mean, I am not frankly aware from where it originated, but it must have originated from the records and documents which were noted down after the 71 war. Because, when the casualty lists come out, it is very clear that every battalion, regiment, formation gives out its casualties because the families need to be informed where is your next of kin who was serving in the army, navy, or the air force. So the lists are drawn up. The regiments, battalions, everyone has a list of their officers and men who have gone into action, and either they have come back or they have not come back. If they have not come back, are they prisoners? Were they killed in action or are they missing? Like, for example, in the 1962 war, Sino-Indian conflict, there used to be number of news items coming that so and so has been killed in action, so and so is a prisoner, and so is missing. And many a times, what happens is that the people who are missing, then they are either confirmed as killed in action or they are confirmed that they are prisoners. And there are many cases where missing people have also come back because no one knows about them. So when no one knows about them, they are best declared missing, believed, killed in action. That is how the armed forces record it. Because you don't want to pinpointedly say that a person is finished. So many signals come like this: you're so and so missing, believed, killed in action. And if he is not killed in action, he's missing, then they say confirmed he's a prisoner of war. So these 54 would have been drawn based on some information right from 1971 December onwards or 72 onwards. But this one name from my regiment, which has crept into the 71 list, must have been from 65. That means, you see, what happens is the Indian Army has got its records onwards. So some people are recorded, have come back, some not come back. So similarly in 65, that list would have been prepared. And this name from that list got added up here in 71. So the authenticity, I would say, lies with the government of India, because no one can say, is it 54, 55, 100? We don't know. It's a compilation of the list which has been collected, collated, and coordinated for publication by the government of India. So if various heads of states, various politicians, military leaders have ventured to visit Pakistan and tell them, then obviously it is a stated figure obtained from the government. So that is the basis of this list of 54 people.
I mean, see, after 71, the next important event was the 72 agreement. And then we again had the 73 agreement. Indira Gandhi was instrumental in this entire exercise. She was the leader. You were there during those times. You've seen things unraveling. There must have been a lot of talk, lot of news, lot of noise around these Indian prisoners, army personnel who had not been returned in exchange for the unprecedented favors which were extended by then Prime Minister to Pakistan, including the land and areas captured, and all the Pakistani soldiers, and none of them were even tried for the nuisance in Pakistan. You've been in the Eastern Front, but there was this Cham and so many other sectors where the bloodiest of wars were fought. Some names were definitely conclusive from the regiments that they belonged to. Do you think none of them deserve to have a conclusive backing with respect to folly being played by Pakistan over the last 50 years? None of them. This is not an issue which happened overnight.
No, definitely. And what you're saying is absolutely correct. In my own regiment, there was an officer who was captured in the Chum sector. He was a second lieutenant, and the regiment uh, didn't know what happened to him for nearly about 6 months. Pakistan had taken him as a prisoner. With him, there were three other boys from my regiment, and the regiment never got to know anything because Pakistan never declared their names. However, by chance, when the Red Cross people came, and they were also from Switzerland, when they were carrying out a visit in Pakistan, and they found certain people who were not recorded on the documents or the nominal roll or the manifest, they questioned them, and then they realized that this officer from my regiment, his name was not there, whereas he was actually there in the prison. So when they questioned the authorities,
What was the name of the
I'll tell you,
officer?
his name was that time Lieutenant Shah, Shah. Shah. And when I was commissioned in the regiment after the 65 war, we saw his name. But within 5 or 6 years, because I joined the regiment in 1970, his name had then figured, moved out from the missing list to prisoner list, and finally he was repatriated. I met him in 1990 in Pune, and he was doing well. He served the army for another 3 years after he came back in 65 or 66, and subsequently he left the army. But the other three boys of his, a driver from my regiment, a technical assistant, and one more person, their whereabouts were not established for a very long time. So you see, Shah also had not received any letters from his family because his name had not been declared by Pakistan as a prisoner. It is later when it was revealed and his name was published, then he got letters, he got the Red Cross parcels also. So I would say that this aberration or the gap between the exact numbers can vary. Like in 65, I have given you an example from my own regiment because I happen to know it. Similarly, there could be other units also of which I don't know, and maybe it has not been made public. It would have been, but that time, there was no social media, there was only the newsprint, there was no television, there was no other means of quick communications at a global level. It is only now because of the internet, the WhatsApp, the other social media, that's how this news goes around. So to answer your question as a final point is these aberrations, documentations can lead to minor errors. I'm not saying no one.
Okay, understood. Now, this is
So
this
that
approach. If we extrapolate this approach of talking to the war veterans, regiment-wise, people like you who commanded a regiment, and you are able to tell us about exactly about individuals, and there can be cross, examination and tallying with respect to the lists which are circulating in the. I mean, I am not condemning or I'm not trivializing the relevance of those lists. Each and every here the number or the list is not important for this conversation to happen. The idea is to sensitize, as you said, it's a sensitive issue. Each and every individual, and this is not the last war that India has fought. After that, we had 99. We had, we keep having skirmishes with China. The then it is not that somebody can be sure that in the future we'll not have such issues again, especially in the wake of the global circumstances today, where even the wars have become quite common in developed nations. Anyways, one of the ways that in which the conclusivity of these names, not the numbers, could be ascertained is by talking to regiment-wise war veterans, I guess. Do you suggest that kind of an approach could help in fine tuning or kind of streamlining the exact, I mean, trying to boil down to the exact names at least. It may be 45. We may come up with a kind of information that there would be probably 20 of them who definitely returned, and then if they retired, like you said about this Mr. Saha, Officer Saha, who came back from Pakistan. Would that approach be much more practical and foolproof?
Yes, that's a valid point. What happens is, in Shah's case, the regiment got to know subsequently, around 1966-67, that he is a prisoner of war, because the Red Cross actually got his name included in that list, and therefore everything happened, and he got repatriated in 66. But the point is that for good 6 months, no one knew what had happened to him because his name was not declared. So similarly, the point which you're bringing out, if all units, everyone knows to which unit the 54 people belong. Like in that 54, when my cousin's name came about 2 years ago on the WhatsApp, I wrote to the Air Force and I rang them up. I said, this list is incorrect because my cousin, Flight Lieutenant Pradeep APTE, was killed in action and that has been confirmed. So he is not a prisoner. But we would be very happy if he is a prisoner, and we can hope that one day he will come back. But that was not correct, because on ground, his formalities were completed in January 1972 by his own squadron, and his remains were brought back from Pakistan because that area had been captured by us subsequently. So that issue closed and his name was taken out. So similarly, the other 54 names which are there, and all those people, as people say that they have received letters, people have actually seen them. And some parents have also received letters that they are held in captivity, but they have not come back. So your point is worth trying out, and I'm sure people would have done it also. It is not that just because we are talking today, the people on ground within the units must have done this. I'm quite certain. So
I
now,
am also certain,
yes,
Brigadier Apte sir, everybody understands this. We are not living in a la la land. India is a democracy for more than 75 years. All prime ministers have held their offices wherein this kind of issues, none of them could have ignored, and none of them would ignore, because these are basic humanitarian issues with political ramifications, and all these issues have only positive ramifications. No prime minister would dare to ignore such issues, so they have all worked on it. But still today, another aspect could be the next of kins who are still standing hopeful with placards of their family members whose whereabouts they are still not aware of from that 71 list. That is conclusive. We don't even have them as casualties. They might say that, okay, we received a photograph of him in a Kot Lakhpat jail or somewhere in Rawalpindi. They might have those photographs. But at the end of the day, those cases are genuine, because those regiments have also not been able to answer probably those next of kins about the current status of their family member who they are still waiting for. At least those cases are conclusive. What has been done in the last 50 years for those cases?
Yeah, so you see, your logic is correct. After all, just hello, 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 yes. Debu, I am on a conference call. I'll just get back to you. Yeah. So Amit, can, can you hear me? Hello. Uh, I I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. So definitely the families are waiting. And as far as officially what we know is that the government of India has spared no efforts or left no stone unturned to meet the commitments to find out that these names are with us as people not yet returned, but they are confirmed as prisoners on the other side and they need to come back. Oblique, we need to know what is their current status. This is important. And as you have said, so many governments, so many heads of states from our country have taken this opportunity to check. There are, I believe, some of the family members have even been sent across and they have been received there, taken around, and but they have not met with any success. So possibly the ball now lies in the court of our adversary to tell us that, look, why haven't you returned these 54 and why are you keeping them?
Who
What
are
is,
the agencies? Who are the agencies, multilateral, global, or Indian, who could be relevant in this kind of a? Who are the agencies? Red Cross, I understand. Is Red Cross still relevant in this particular issue? Because Pakistan today, after 50 years of denial, cannot have its foot in the mouth by accepting even one name. Even one name, if they accept and return today, like Abhinandan, for the International Court of Justice and the media hoopla and hoolala, those same thing, obviously, a kind of airstrike failure, being transformed into, if I may put this today, into a kind of great camaraderie and a great example of a humanitarian step by the Pakistan government by returning Abhinandan. The same thing if they do it with any of those 50 members or 60 members or 44 members or 20 members who are conclusively missing even today as per the family and the next of kin, would it not be foot in the mouth for Pakistan? So what is the way out and who are the agencies who could help in this?
see, if our adversary has been on the denial mode right since 1972, it is unlikely that today they will suddenly say, yes, these people are here, because it will be a big slap on their face that you had them and you have been on the denial mode. It is 99% that that is what will actually happen. But 1%, if there is some humanitarian, thinking in their minds that after all, they are all human beings and it is our mistake that they were here. But that is quite unlikely.
No, no,
Like
sir,
I,
that is ruled out. So
uh,
let's not live in a kind of a fantasy world. Those things let's live. It's a one-way affair. What can be done? We've also been joined by Lieutenant General Qasim Wala Singh, the first Lieutenant General of the Northeast, and somebody who's fighting Manipur. Fighting the issues in Manipur. I'll bring him on. But even this Qasim Himalaya, we've discussed about the conclusivity. We've discussed about what all could be done, from example in terms of tallying the exact names and numbers. Numbers is derogatory from my side. I should say names at least. One idea is to tally regiment wise and the family members is say with respect to their kins who are missing, and then come out with at least some names which are conclusively even missing, first of all, and whether then they are surviving or not. And then who are the agencies who could be relevant today also? Because Pakistan don't expect anything. You don't expect anything from anyone. When Bangladesh even denied India's role in 71, forget all that. So let's not get into a Disney world. So what is the solution going forward? Even if I have to identify, confirm, finalize, and get one person back, for you or me, we understand one person would be not just a number. It is about emotions. It is about respect of a nation. It is about respect for the army. So if we can get even one person today also, he may be 80 years old. I think that would also serve the purpose of such discussions, because this is going to go to the PMO after this discussion.
See, the point is this. When I gave you the example in my own regiment, 1965, Lieutenant Shah, and the other three are still missing from my regiment, 65 war. And the other three are still declared in my regiment history as missing, believed killed in action. They've never come back. But one of those names has figured in your 71 list, which I told you that day that Amit, this is wrong. He is not a 71 prisoner, he is a 65 war prisoner. So what does that indicate? That means that wherever these lists are getting corroborated, I don't think they are being done at the highest level, because my cousin's name was there. It suddenly figured 3 years ago on as missing, believed prisoner, whereas he's not a prisoner, he's gone. Flight Lieutenant Pradeep Apte. At my request, the Air Force took his name out. But how is it that for the past 25 years, his name was never on that 54's list, and suddenly it arrived just 2 years ago? Why? That means there is an anomaly, there is an aberration in our own system of putting those names there and then taking them out when someone says, sorry, this is incorrect. So we need to actually track that from where do these 54 names keep coming and keep getting modified. Why is this happening? Because of social media, because of better communications. Did this happen 35 years ago? No. Did anyone know the 54 names 35 years ago? They may have been known, but they were not put in the public domain. So my answer to your question is, it is not whether you can get one person back or all the 54 back, but even getting that one person has to be released from the other side. Are they going to do it? It is quite unlikely. It's a sorry thing. I mean, one
Yeah,
doesn't.
that is the ultimate goal of this discussion.
We can't be pessimistic on public domain, but at the same time, we all want to be optimistic. But the point is, who can get it done? It can only be done between two top leaders. As you mentioned that you've had a talk with General VK Singh, my postmate, he is the best judge. He has got the experience, he has got the knowledge, he has got the capability, and he understands that at the highest diplomatic level. This is an initiative which can be done diplomatically and mixed with a political support. So I will keep it at that.
Consul Himalay Singh, General Consul Himalay Singh is with us. Uh,
Very good.
individually, Consul Bhai, individually, would you like to mention one or two, at least one name which you conclusively know from the kin's perspective as missing from 71, and they still have proof of his being alive in the Pakistani prisons?
See, I keep reading the names of all 54 names, who have been missing and believed to be in the Pakistani jails. But, as of today, as things stand today, my view is I totally agree with Brigadier Apte that it is almost virtually impossible to actually get them back from Pakistan unless something unless some kind of a diplomatic, victory by India, some kind of a diplomatic, initiative, which should result in at least a few of them being released, which is very unlikely after so many years. Having said that, I would like to say that we should not leave any stone unturned from our side, which is not yet visible. At least I am not privy to the efforts having been made to actually get the prisoners of war back from 1971 war or 65 war prisoners from Pakistan. In the last 40 years that I have served in the army, I'm not aware what are the initiatives that have been taken. So this particular aspect, what we can do, I think that can be put in the public domain, that we have done so much and we are doing so much. As I said, we should not leave any stone turned from our side, even though Pakistan may or may not, respond positively to our efforts. Because anyone missing in battle, no one is to be left behind. That is the motto of Indian Army and Indian Defence Forces. So therefore, we should not leave anybody, we should not leave any effort to
Kosamai,
retrieve.
from your northeast, entire northeast, there must have been people who must have served either at the eastern front or on the Sham and western front of Pakistan, Longewala, etc. I mean, do you have any name who you conclusively believe is, because she's the numbers, the names, or also have a question mark looming over them? That is what we all understand. 54, 45, 72, I don't know. Brigadier Apte did not know. General VK told me he has no clue about exactly how many are still alive, whether they are in Kot Lakhpat, whether they are in Rawalpindi, whether they are alive, they are surviving, or they have died, whether they've gone mad. But there are some kins who still have proofs of them, which are very recent probably, who stand with those pictures, placards, who still are hopeful because they believe somebody somewhere they've got the proof. I don't have those details. That yes, we have a photograph just 2 years back of my husband, who I didn't even see properly after marriage, and he's 76 today, and he's still alive. 2 years back, he was alive. So those kind of cases at least are conclusive that they were missing, they were in the jails. If at all, are there some cases, maybe one or two cases, like Brigadier Apte pointed out, which you are aware of from Northeast, from your regiments?
No, I have no information about anyone, having been spotted or believed to be in the Pakistani jails, which have come out with some concrete kind of a proof or some kind of a reason to believe that they are alive.
Does India have from a counter perspective? Does India also hold any of those? I mean, on record, you may choose not to answer this. In the last 40, 50 years, have you heard? Probably you didn't fight the 71 war, but Brigadier Apte was there. He was very much there in the 71 war. You guys have seen it year by year for the last 45 years. Does India also hold any of those Pakistani prisoners in the Indian jails?
You're asking me?
Anyone can choose to answer. Brigadier Apte is better equipped to answer, I guess.
Brigadier Apte will be better to answer this. Yeah.
Because he saw what happened in 71.
Yeah.
He fought the war. He knew he was in Khulna where the signing was happening. He was there in 72 when Simla agreement was signed. He was there in 73 when Delhi was there. He was there in 99 when Vajpayee ji went to Lahore. He was there in 2015 when Modi went to Islamabad to meet Sharif ji. So, Mr. Apte, Brigadier Apte, do you think even India has Any names from Pakistan in the jails here?
See, Amit, firstly, I don't think there is anything on the public domain where Pakistan is complaining that India has kept its prisoners. I don't think so. At least I have not seen it or heard about it. There is nothing on the public domain. On the public domain, we are only hearing that our prisoners have not been returned. So that is point number one. Now, point number two, that when we held the 93,000 prisoners, who were a mix of civilians and armed forces personnel, they were not only armed forces. What the government of India had done, and I am privy to this, there was no television, there was nothing, there were only transistors. And every afternoon, right from 1972 March, because I remember we were all deployed on the Western Front, and we used to hear the Pakistani prisoners coming and speaking to their messages were being broadcast. They would give their names and they would say that they are here in India and being well looked after, whatever it is. That broadcast was regular for 2 hours every afternoon. And I think that was a wonderful thing which India did. And it was publicized with names, and I have heard this. So I am privy to it. The other part is that I have myself been witness to the surrender of 107 Infantry Brigade in Khulna. I was one of the second lieutenants given the task of rounding up their officers. I met their men, and we were carrying out a proper documented record of how many people were being taken prisoners and in which all prisoners of war camps they were being allocated. So as far as we are concerned, and there is an officer here, I am in contact with him. He is from the Maratha Light Infantry, and he belongs to Punjab. He is retired. He has received excellent letters from the Pakistani prisoners when they went back, complimenting him. So as far as India is concerned, my belief 99.9% is we have not played any mischief in declaring the names. And to the best of my knowledge, again, 99.9%, we will never do a heinous thing like this, that is keep people with us in jails without returning them to their beloved. When 55 years have gone by, the war is over. It is time to make amends now. It's a great pity. So I don't think we are such retrograde people that we would have done this. Otherwise, by now, the list of these names would have been published all over the world. But that has not happened. I have not seen it.
Did you get a chance to meet people like Sukumar Sen, who were part of that All India Radio, who led the All India Radio, and people who covered this war like no one else during those times? And such kind of media people would have been privy to Pakistan's approach towards releasing the captured prisoners. Did you meet top media people during those times?
No, that time I did not meet anyone. We were far too junior. There were media people. I remember in and around Jaisor, Khulna, even during the battle. And if I am right, there were some foreign correspondents. There was no television, and it was Surjit Sen, who, if I am right, was there for the surrender at Dhaka when that picture came.
Yes, sorry for the name. It's not Sukumar, it is Surajit Sen. Yes, yes.
So later, I have met someone who knows or who knew Surjit Sen, Baldar, and all these top radio broadcasters. And they said that no, such things as you're mentioning never got publicized. But also, let me give you one point, which is from a humanitarian perspective. When we were advancing, we came across casualties from the enemy side, and they were lying, and the enemy had withdrawn. So we had picked up those people, they had gone, and we had put them to rest in, with proper military honors, but we could never record them. So now if you go back and take that instance, as far as their next of kin is concerned, maybe their documentation is incomplete and they don't know what happened to their next of kin. Only people like me or some other people would know what we did to them because there was no time to carry out documentation. We were fighting a war. So such aberrations can happen in war unknowing.
Do you think, Brigadier Apte, there was an element of, though this is in hindsight and of no use today, but just came to my mind, uh, was there an element of compromise because Mujibur had to be brought back even after the war, that India kept giving and giving and giving and lost out on an opportunity which probably till now has never presented itself again, giving back the land captured, giving all the prisoners back, not even asking Pakistan to declare whatever numbers they had captured in their captivity. Was there an element of compromise from Mrs. Gandhi?
See, Amit, this is a difficult question for me as a military man to answer, and that too, 53 years down the line. I would refrain from answering this question because of
Actually, you should. Actually, you should. But now, what is the way forward? One way forward is exchanging uh, you know Good Friday kisses could be one of the way, wherein we probably exchange pleasantries on a particular occasion, like that happened in the case of Najjoh Singh Sidhu carrying those two trunks across the border, and then having a kind of a hug, uh, global hug event which happened across the border during Imran's swearing ceremony. So is something like that probably after this trial of Imran now pretty much settled. So you think, is there a silver lining in the process going forward, especially with Trump coming to power and Russia-China dynamics playing, spoil sport, etc.?
I think let General Himalay give his views because he has to go somewhere.
Yeah,
So
we'll wrap up the show. We'll wrap up the show with closing remarks, because now the solution is that the top leadership, the heads of state of the two countries, need to just touch upon this and at least get one person back from their side. At least some semblance of reciprocation or some semblance of humanity, wherein India can also bargain with them. So, Qasim Himalaya, closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Amit, once again. I feel that Pakistan, whether Trump administration is here or not, Pakistan is unlikely to change the attitude that they have so far been following as far as
Fully
India.
agree, sir. 101% I agree.
So, so therefore, any kind of overtures, unless it's a huge diplomatic, win-win for India as well as Pakistan, which have barely 1 to 5% chances of getting anyone back if they are alive, in Pakistani jails. So all that I can say is hope for the best, but be we should ourselves be very clear as to what we have done, what we are doing to get them back, or what all actions have been taken by our establishment. That much we have the right to know as to what have they done for people who fought the 1971 war and are missing and believed to be in their jails. So we should do much more. That's what I can say as far as the PWs are concerned.
Brigadier Apte ji, closing remarks from you.
yeah, Amit, what General Himalay says is quite right. That there is a ray of hope always. And if you take your mind, let's take our minds back to the Second World War, when the thickest of enemies, the Allies versus the Axis powers, and the war is over. And today, people are living in each other's lands, have taken up citizenship. Even some of the German prisoners were well looked after by people in England, and they were returned. So
Almost 1.5 lakh soldiers were returned.
and also, since I have visited all the Second World War, at least most of them, the war areas, battle-scarred zones. And I met with some people in France whose grandparents and all had fought. But they said ultimately bonhomie and friendship has come between the two nations, Germany, France, and Britain. So maybe if something like this, a miracle happens, and as General Himalaya says, we keep hoping for the best. Why not? Why should we give up? After all, people are staying in India. I meet Flight Lieutenant Tambe's brother very often on the golf course. He's also an army man, and he always tells me that there's always hope in his family. His parents have gone, but the others keep, hoping that the brother will come back. So why not? I think we should keep trying, and you never know where you'll hit success. So, I mean, that's how I look at it.
I'll probably close this show with what honestly I feel, with whatever little experience as a citizen I have and as a normal person I have, education that I have, without any military expertise, without not much political expertise. We are in the era of surgical strikes, where Mr. Modi has made it very clear after becoming Prime Minister that he is willing to go inside and attack if required. Pakistan has shown us the way. Kandahar is a very good example. Make a Kandahar from our side and get those people back. If they can extract Masood Azhar from us, we can extract our people from them the same. That is the only way. Nobody else is bothered. The families are suffering. We are depressed. We feel that we are a soft state taken for a ride. So no more talking on this. Talks will not lead anywhere. Pakistan or anyone else. Once they have you by the collar, once they have you by the neck, nobody's going to spare you in today's world. World War II was World War 200 years back. Now the world is always at a war. So just try and get your people back the way you want. If you keep waiting for goodies to happen, good luck to strike, no Trump, no Putin will help us. Mr. Modi has to walk the talk. If the government is serious about getting even one person back and getting the smile back on the family of any one person also, which I also personally know it's absolutely not possible. But if at all it has to be done, it has to be done exactly the way that Pakistan does it. Simple. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jinnah.
No, thank you.